Hi, and welcome to my channel. So these videos, or this series that I'm working on right now, is basically a look back at the book that I had written when I was 19, and now, 20 years later, what my thoughts are on how I thought. Just in case you haven't seen the other videos, or I hadn't mentioned it before. So originally I wrote the book by hand. And then I trained my AI system to be able to read my handwriting because it is atrocious, and I had it all transcribed. And it wasn't ideal for being able to be read in a short period of time, so I shortened it without really taking out any of the key ideas. That way it can be read within an hour because we have busy lives nowadays. And the book is free, and it is in the link below if you just want to take a look at it. So today I'm going to be talking about the section about religion. Okay, so let's see. Oh, the name of the book is For the Not So Good Boys and Girls. It's a title I came up with later on. Anyways,
God exists, not as a man in the sky, not as a woman, not even as a human, just as something greater, something that gives people hope. That's its real power, belief. Not creation, not control, but belief that things can get better, that someone's watching and that justice matters. Ask him.
okay, so let me give you some context of my religious background. Technically, I am Muslim. I have been on and off practitioner. I would say I'm actually practicing now. It's quite interesting. It only took 20 damn years. When I was growing up, though, my father was what you would call in Arabic da'i. So he is a person who spreads the faith. And he wanted me to be like that as well. So there are a lot of different ways to go about it. One of the ways, of course, is the traditional route where you go to like these debates and you hardcore into the stuff. But there are some da'i who actually study other faiths, so that way they are better at understanding them, better at debating them. Because the reality is, if you say your religion is the best religion, and I say my religion is the best religion, we will come to no conclusion other than either being very aggressive towards each other or having to say, well, let's just agree to disagree. But if I study your faith, then I could use your faith in the debate, right? So I can't remember his name, something Yusuf or another. I believe he's from South Africa. He's passed away already, but he actually memorized the entire Bible. And I used to watch his videos and his debates growing up, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm really into debate. I was even on the debate team, and I joined a bunch of debate clubs, and it's just kind of a thing. Additionally, my familiar background is my mother's side is Jewish and my father's side is Muslim. We can get into that another time. Yeah, that was quite interesting growing up. Additionally, my father, again, was more into the like, let's study other faiths so that we can discuss and have a better idea. So I would go to the synagogue and I would go to church and I'd go to a Catholic. There are so many different types of churches for people who are non-Christian out there. There are so many different denominations, and I'm not going to get into all of that because the point of the video isn't to debate whether religion is real or not or any of that. It's more so to look back and also see what my mentality towards it has changed. But I would say I also went to Scientology, and this is how I know Scientology is baloney, because you want to know the reason they wouldn't accept me? Not because I was a child at the time. No, it's they asked me if I had money. I think I was 12 at the time, and to do their thing where it's like a cleansing thing and they hook you up to a machine, it's like $500. I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. I called my mom at the time and I told her about it. And she's like, I mean, at least you tried, right? I was really into Buddhism for a short period of time, and then I kind of weaned off of that when I found out how interconnected it is with Hinduism. And what else did I? but a bunch of different faiths, because I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and it is very multicultural there, multi-religious there. I think we have like the largest Hindu temple in Atlanta or in Georgia, and yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. One of the things I found worked really well, especially if you're debating monotheists, is getting them to agree to the statement there is only one God, and in believing so, we all share that same God, right? Now, I would say back in the day, I believe that to the extent of using it for debate, but nowadays I do believe it's kind of like it's a one for all type of thing. I'm not saying this to piss off the polytheists or the Hindus or the Zoroastrians or the Taoists or anybody else. It's more so of just my personal belief. But at the same time, like if you want to look into some of the like natural religions, well, it is all one, right? And that kind of falls into the same concept. All right, let's continue.
Yourself. If a boat can't build itself, how can the universe? It's not about which god you worship. It's about what that god brings out in you.
Okay, that sentence about a boat building itself. So that actually, I had the full story in the original book, but this is just like a one sentence off, and it's by me putting only the one sentence. It's making a large assumption that people know the story, and the story goes like this. So there was a religious scholar who was traveling the world and spreading monotheism. It wasn't, the story's not specific about which religion, but the point is, it was at a time when the majority of the world was still polytheistic. And so he goes to this kingdom, and the king laughs at him. And he says, well, okay, I can prove it to you. And he's like, okay, sure. He's like, just give me 3 days. He's like, all right, fine. So he leaves. And he comes back like a week later. And he said, well, what took you so long? You said 3 days. He said, I sincerest apologies. I didn't mean any disrespect, but I stood at the bank of the river and I waited. And he's like, you waited for what? Well, I waited for the tree to get chopped down, for the wood to become lumber, for it all to come together as a boat so that I could come to you. But it never did. And the king said, that's ridiculous. That things don't just happen. It doesn't just happen. Something has to have created it. And that was the aha moment. Something has to have created it. I do know from personal experience when I was going through my like atheist, agnostic kind of phase that the argument does not work with atheists whatsoever because they're like Big Bang this and atoms that and life this. And it's like, okay, I don't think you're getting the point of religion. Like as at where I am in life now, like that argument would be against me when I was younger. And I think that's why I prolonged that phase of my life. But now, yeah, okay, sure. I'm not debating Big Bang. I'm not saying Big Bang didn't happen. I'm not saying I'm not arguing any of the scientific matter. What I'm saying is, as a whole, as a unit, as a species, as whatever, something unites us. And that thing that unites us, that thing that pulls us all together, well, that's what is God. That is the higher being. That is it. And it's about what that God brings out in you. Oh my God, literally, just like the video says.
Are you more compassionate or more judgmental? Are you uplifted or weaponized?
Okay, so this one I think is important for me because again, one of the reasons I veered away from religion and organized religion, and I still am. I wouldn't say I'm anti-organized religion as much as I used to be, but the concept of you must partake in religion as an organization, yes, I'm very much still against it because it is not compassionate. It is very judgmental. And religion now, just like the past 100,000 years, it's weaponized. It's weaponized versus them. You know, either you're with us or you're them and we have to kill you, kind of thing. And I don't like that concept. I don't think that's the right mentality to go about it. Especially if you're claiming, okay, one God, right? Well, and again, this is why I turn back to Islam, because in Islam, as long as you're monotheistic, we accept you, right? So you don't have to convert, you don't have to become that. But uh, yeah, okay.
Are you uplifted or weaponized? Judaism started it all for the monotheists. It's both deeply spiritual and deeply political. It shaped Christianity and Islam and still stands at the center of global debates. But being chosen doesn't mean being innocent. Even chosen people have to be held accountable.
I'm 100% sure that is about Israel. Not getting into that. Everybody knows what Israel is doing. Genocide and apartheid. Doesn't mean I stand with the Palestinians either. I'm, you know what I mean? You do not. This is those things where they're trying to get you to choose us or them. You're either, what is it, anti-Semitic or you're pro-Israel. No, no, I can be against Israel and be pro-Jews. They are not mutually exclusive, right?
Islam is structure, it's discipline, it's a full system from prayer to parenting. The problem? Too many people follow it blindly or forcefully. When you strip Islam,
That was definitely very personal because growing up, I had a lot of bad experiences with dealing with certain Muslims. Like I mentioned, so technically, we are supposed to accept people from other monotheistic religions, for example, Christianity. So I'm going to tell you about a traumatic moment when I think I was less than 10. Not sure by how much, but less than 10. My childhood babysitter, who was well into her 80s, had passed away. And it was already a traumatic situation for me. And I was crying. And this guy comes up to me and he's concerned. Why is this kid crying? Thinking something happened to me. And I tell him. And he asks me if she was Muslim. And I said, no. And he said, then she's going to hell. And it lit a flame in me. I went off on the guy. You are in no position, and I'm saying this to all the Muslims out there, okay? So you know what that means in Arabic, right? You are not in any position to ever claim somebody is going to heaven or to hell. You can use a hadith and surah and all this stuff to reassure why these types of actions and continuation of these actions will lead you in a path to that. But you cannot say somebody is or is not, because that is claiming that you have enough of an understanding and that you know what God will do, which actually is kufr if you didn't know. And that can lead you to the path of going to hell. Just for, my religious people out there. So be careful with your words and don't be an asshole to a little kid when his childhood babysitter passes away.
Islam down to its essence, its balance and purpose.
This part about balance and purpose, I still agree with it. To be honest with you, from the three major monotheistic religions, Islam and Judaism have the most reliable rules for ways to live. Something like related to Judaism. Well, if you didn't know this, there's a reason they're not supposed to eat shellfish. It's because most of them are deathly allergic to it. So, what's an easy way to be like, hey, don't eat this and don't serve this because you could die or you could end up killing your relatives. Just make it where it's not allowed in the religion. Bam. Problem solved. A lot of like the food rules in Judaism and Islam are related to health concerns. Not gonna lie. And that goes to purpose, right? What is the purpose of only using one hand, a specific hand for cleaning, your right hand for eating and drinking? It's to separate the cleanliness from the dirtiness. Nowadays, we don't think about this stuff because we're like, well, why don't you just go wash your hands? Well, guess what? Unless you live in a first world nation where soap or disinfectant is readily available, yeah, sometimes you'd end up going the entire day and you wouldn't have an opportunity to make sure of that. So if you're going around shaking people's hands, well, you shouldn't be shaking people's hands with a dirty hand type of thing. It's another reason in Islam, before you make your prayers, and since we pray 5 times a day, that guarantees you that you are cleaning yourself at least 5 times a day. I know we live in a society and blah 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 and all this other stuff. And my best friend is probably, if he sees this, he's gonna be like, "We don't need that anymore." Yes, we do. There are nasty. You know what? Go walk into a high school, right, and just watch for like 30 minutes. And go to a kindergarten. Go anywhere. Go anywhere. Go where there are people, and you will realize like we still have that basic animal part of us, and that without these types of like guides, because I wouldn't call them rules, they are guides, right, for living a healthier, better life, a lot of people would just fall behind, right? It's always the intelligent, like people who want to better themselves, who are aware of themselves and society and all this other stuff, who always want to be like, we don't need this anymore. Yes, we do. Because the reason you know that is because when you were a child and as you grew up, these are things you learned. You cannot assume, because now that you have that knowledge, that the next generation doesn't also need it. That's kind of why we're stuck in the situation that we are. Because millennials, my generation, right, are not teaching their kids, and they're not parenting because they're like, oh, my parents blah, so I'm going to do this. Great. And who's raising your kids? That's unacceptable. You cannot assume just because you have become somewhat enlightened that kids, teenagers, young adults are also, or even people older than you, right? We are always and forever learning. And actually, sorry to keep going back to Islam because it is a very crucial point for me. There's a hadith which says, which means seek knowledge, even if it's as far as China. Now, it doesn't. The translation doesn't mean literally China. It means like the Far East, because 1,600, 1,700 years ago, that was the furthest place to go. Right? Was the Far East. So basically, even if you have to go to the ends of the world to seek knowledge, do it.
Not oppression. Christianity is love and forgiveness on paper. But when the rules are only followed on Sundays.
Ooh, this one. Christianity is only love and forgiveness on paper. All right. I was going to save this story for when I'm talking about my life, but I'll probably end up telling it again anyways, because it's one of my favorite stories. So when I was about maybe 5 or 6, there weren't any Muslim summer camps or anything like that. There was only a Christian summer camp. So my dad sent me there, and everything was fine. It's a 2-week summer camp. And on Sunday, of course, we have Sunday Mass. Yay! I have no idea what's going on, right? I'm a little kid. So they separate us, and because the kids are there for the summer camp type of thing. And the youth minister is talking to us, and he's like, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and we are all the children of God. Yes, Malik. If Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and we are all the children of God, why don't you worship me? His face turned red, probably just as red as mine is right now. And some other adult came, and they got me. They called my dad, and basically I got kicked out of summer camp. I never got the question answered, by the way. There was no bad intention or malice or anything. It was a genuine question. Obviously, they don't want that type of mindset. But yeah, they could have spoken to me, but they didn't. They could have explained to me, but they didn't. Instead, they just kicked me out type of situation. And I've heard of certain denominations that do that type of thing, that if you question anything, well, their first statement is, oh, faith requires that you believe it without explanation. And I have always had a difficulty with that. So, especially since you can't, like, if you're not going to explain and you're not going to forgive, well, then you're preaching bullshit. Sorry, I'm not saying Christianity is bullshit. I'm saying what they are preaching is.
And ignore the rest of the week. What are you really worshipping? Jesus or convenience?
Oh, this is a jab at Catholics, because I'm from the Southeast U.S. and we have Southern Baptists and whatnot, and basically the denominations that broke off from the Catholic Church. And they're one of the main statements they have about Catholics are, Catholics aren't Christians because they don't actually worship God. They worship Mother Mary and Jesus Christ and the Holy Trinity and all that good stuff. I'm not opinionating, just saying this is what they say about Catholics.
The Bible says, worship no other God. So why do so many put Jesus above God?
There you go.
Atheism isn't evil.
Ooh. I think this is like, I wrote the book probably right at the beginning of my sinking into atheism part. I'm very curious what I say. Okay, one sec.
It's just a loss or rejection of belief. And sometimes it's honest. Sometimes atheists understand God better than believers because they've really thought about it. But don't confuse adaptation with evolution.
All right, so I still have some agreement with that. Not that atheists understand God, but they understand religion, specifically organized religion. There are a few very good atheist YouTube channels. I still watch them, and I'm not negatively affected by them because their attack is not on God. Because if you genuinely believe in God, and this is one of the things I do not understand about organized religion or people who like push this weaponization of religion, if you genuinely believe God is almighty, then, well, words can't hurt him. It is not an entity that can be physically negatively impacted. So why are you making a bit? Oh, because you're afraid that they'll actually convince your followers or convince your kids otherwise. Well, how about you have an open, honest discussion instead? This part where don't confuse adaptation with evolution is a jab at atheists. I think this is, like I said, I wrote the book around the time where I was like going through the phase of like exiting all organized religion and being more like in between being agnostic and atheist. And there were a few debates I'd seen at the time where somebody, I don't remember which debate person it was, but basically he was debating an atheist and he said, I can accept you pushing adaptation, right? That bacteria or whatever the was it the pool of life? I don't remember what the term is. Anyways, but like that adapted for its surroundings and then became something else and so on and so forth. But evolution is more of like branching out and it's a nuanced difference, right? Now I'm not talking about my belief now, I'm talking about like how I was perceiving it at the time. Personally, I just don't get into it anymore because it literally does not affect me. That's one of the things I have to say. I've matured or has changed a lot about my attitude. If it does not affect me directly, I just leave it up to the experts. I don't argue or debate it. Leave it be.
Science doesn't make God disappear. It just shows how complex creation really is. Other religions, polytheism, idol worship, nature-based systems, all have their own logic.
See, that kind of goes into what I was saying before. My childhood, me going around and seeing all these different religions, did let me have respect for those faiths, even if I don't believe the same thing. And it's because, for the most part, the purpose is the betterment of self, right? To have something more than yourself to focus on, to bring together a community and whatnot. And I still believe that. They've done studies that people who are involved in the community live longer. And well, if you want to be a part of any community, usually the easiest place or the easiest community that's open-minded to welcoming people are faith-based institutions. But I highly recommend you research it before you go. Don't make any assumptions that they'd be welcoming because they're any particular faith, or that even if it was your own personal faith. I know people who have left certain faiths and then they, grew up and they matured, or they just decided they wanted to be a part of the community again and they weren't allowed to come back. While other faiths are like, yes, come, please, we need more people. Yes, yes. So, and then it's like, wait, what am I doing here? How did I get it sucked into this? Oh, it was just because they had open doors that I'm welcome, not because they actually care about me. So you need to definitely look into it, find your own path, find the thing that works for you. I would say I put resources in the bottom, but I'm not pushing any faiths.
But don't just follow something because it's what your family handed you. Study it, test it. If you wouldn't believe in it from scratch, don't pretend to believe in it now.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.